You know, you have to keep moving forward regardless of the storm, and then remembering what you've come through. You made it out on the other end. Welcome to the Whisper in the Walk podcast, where we hope to encourage, inspire the fire within you.
I'm Fred. This is my wife, Gail, and today we're going to talk about some of the things of remembering what God has done in the past and hopefully encourage you in those times of need when you're going through the struggle.
So, I totally drew a blank there.
That's okay. So we're going to go ahead and one of the biggest things that we're learning in this day and age is we all go through times of struggles, different things like that. And it's great when you're in the midst of blessing and outpouring and the Spirit of God's moving, or you're in a church service and you're being encouraged, or there's that song that ignites the fire within you. But one of the biggest things is learning to know that even outside those moments when it seems like it's the darkest of times, God has not let you go. So, Gail, do you have a time in your life that you can go back and remember? Last week you even said in your childhood you found in the dryer a little praying hands.
Praying hands, yes. I still think, how many years has that been? And that's still a memory of mine of a time that he was good. I knew he was there.
Yeah.
And then, things go through life. Just back in January, my dad passed away. There's sad times, but then I'm remembering all the good times that he was there in that whole process.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, and so, for me, it's been the biggest thing. You go throughout the history of the Bible, all throughout, especially in the Old Testament, they forgot what God had done. They brought them through the Red Sea, and then no sooner did they cross over, they're already forgetting making idols, going back to what's familiar. And sometimes in the midst of our storms in life, we tend to go back to what's familiar, and we forget. And in those moments of forgetting, we got to remember to be thankful, especially in this day and age. There's so many things going on. Yep. For me, never forgetting that he's the God that provides, restores, heals, redeems, and sets free. And I think sometimes we're so busy looking at the storm in front of us that we forget who is above the storm. And he wants us to look from his vantage point and not from what we can see. So Do you have any experiences like that you can share?
Everybody has these, times in their lives. Any that stick out to me in particular, at this moment, I can't think of a story. I did hear a story the other day of a guy talking about, it's a business that I'm into, and they are the most encouraging and uplifting people and that's how I start my day with this group of people. But one of the stories the guy was saying, and it just related so much to me, his daughter had just gotten her license. They were out driving, and all of a sudden it was like a monsoon rain. And if you've ever been driving and the windshield wipers is going crazy, it almost looks gray, like a whiteout with all the rain.
Yep.
Well, that's how it got. And the girl started slowing down. The dad's like, just keep going. And she's like, but everyone's stopping or pulling under the bridge. And he says, just keep going. And so she did. She, went slow, but she ended up going all the way. They got past it. About 10 minutes into the drive, they rode out of the storm. Mm-hmm. Her dad told her to stop, pull over. Now look back. All those people are still stuck there. Yeah. You have to keep moving forward regardless of the storm, and then remembering what you've come through. You made it out on the other end.
That's good. That's really good. Yeah, because that's the biggest thing, for me. I'm a story guy. I love stories. I love hearing a lot of people's different testimonies and what they've gone through. But talking from my own experience, I remember when our kids were smaller and everything else, and our son was playing football, and he was in, what was the Pop Warner League?
Oh, yeah, the Eagles.
And their team actually made it to the finals to go to Florida, and we didn't have the money to go there. So, everybody else is planning on going. They're making the reservations to go. We don't have the money.
No.
We don't have the money to send him even by himself to go there. And I remember thinking, oh, my God, how am I going to tell my son, you can't go? This is like the Super Bowl for the Pop Warner League. And we're sitting there, and I remember telling you, we just need to trust. We just need to trust God. And I pulled my son to the side, and matter of fact, one of the tattoos he actually has on his side is, now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. So we're walking off the field, and, you try to shelter your kid from the different things that are coming in. And I remember, we're pulling them to the side, and everybody else is making arrangements on how they're going to get there, how they're going to get to Florida and everything else like that. And as soon as we walked over to the side, I remember saying those, that scripture, he's always faithful, and telling my son, just trust, we're going to believe. And no sooner did we get like maybe 5 feet away, somebody came up and said they were going to sponsor our son to go down to Florida. And then shortly thereafter, because we were thinking, well, who's going to go? Just me or Gail or one of us? And the Lord opened up the door to provide. I ended up getting a bonus at work for like $700 or something like that, so we could end up taking the whole family down there to go see him. It was one of the most, greatest times that I can remember in our lives for us. But those are the stories that I hold on to, because now faith is the substance of hope, things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. And that's the thing, is a lot of times the storms are coming. Even the disciples in the boat, when the storm, they're just looking at the storm, they're looking at the circumstance, and they're not looking at what God is doing in this day and age. And we can't forget those things. We got to hold on to those promises. So
exactly. Even being here in Alabama, we've been here a little over a year now, and we have discovered him in different ways here than we have it anywhere else. And what has helped us is remembering what he's brought us through back in North Carolina. Having 4 kids, being married at young ages, it was a struggle. And then making it through, and then coming here and discovering him, jobs aren't as great as they were back in North Carolina. Things are more expensive here. And then you start to worry or get angst, and then all of a sudden you just find a peace and a rest, because he already brought you through once before.
That's for sure. And one of the things that, like, knowing a lot of people that have come and moved to Alabama like we did, and going through a big transition, we've seen a lot of different things. We've seen people come, go. We've seen people go through hard times. We've seen people weather the storm and stuff like that. But even for us personally, I remember in February, shortly after we had been here for a while, my wife loves to say we've been here for a
mental breakdown.
We love to say we've been here for a year and 3 months, but let's be honest, I've been here for a year and 3 months. She's been here for about a year, because now she had a lot going on with her dad and helping take care of my mom and the transition of all that stuff. So there were times I was even here by myself, and it was a big transition. Work wasn't going the way we had planned it to go for me specifically. I wasn't working that much, and so you have a lot of time to be thinking about all the bad things instead of the good things. And there was, in February, we were like, we're done. We're just going to go we're going to go back to North Carolina and everything else like that. And I literally had a breakdown. I was at the end of my road. I was just like, I can't believe this. I just wanted to quit on everything. And she ends up getting a phone call from a friend of ours in North Carolina who said, well, I'll let you tell it. Go ahead.
So it got pretty rough here, and right after Valentine's Day, it got pretty rough. And, we're us being new here, we didn't know who to call, no one to talk to, So the very next day, a friend of mine back from North Carolina, who I don't talk to very often, she gives me a call. And I answer the phone, and the first thing out of her mouth was, I've had your face in my mind for 2 days. I had to call you. And she all of a sudden goes, what's going on? And I broke. I just started bawling. And I threw up all over her, what's been happening. And she says, you got 2 choices. Either your season there is done, because we live in a travel trailer. She goes, pull it in and come all the way back. Or dig your heels in and you wait till you hear from the Holy Spirit.
And so Gail comes out of the room. Of course, you can tell she's been crying, upset, and everything else like that. And she comes out, and I was like, what did she say? And she said, dig your heels in. Well, for me, that's easy. Been in the faith for a long time, going through different things. I could dig my heels in and weather a storm out. I can do that. But the words when she said, dig your heels in, the biggest thing that hit me was I've been hearing messages about the goodness of God. And what happened with me was it wasn't just dig your heels in for a rough time. It was literally dig your heels into I am good. And that's the part that I was struggling. How does a good God let me go through this? And I had to remember how he was faithful in the past to help me move forward into the present of the goodness of God that he wanted in this day and age. And so I started just realizing, okay, you're good, you're good, you're good. You know, you start to try to psych yourself up in this thing of like, you're good, you're good, you're good. And then I grab my phone and the first thing I do is I check my bank account and it's like negative. And you're like, oh yeah, you're good. Yeah, you're good. Let me put that down. You're good. You're going to revive. You know, it's like, yeah, I trust you, Lord. I really do trust. But it was at that moment, those words, dig your heels in, rooted into my spirit. It was a confirmation of even what the Holy Spirit was telling me. Dig your heels into the goodness of God. And so I started to do that. And I think that's the biggest thing is, and shortly thereafter, as soon as we did that, I think the next day work picked up for me. I think doors started open. We started walking through them and you're like, he really is good. He does do these things. Yep. And so for me, I started to make a memorial of that moment in my life. I remember that's a marking moment for me personally. Like, I don't know what it's going to do for other people, but everybody out there that's walked the walk of faith has had a marking moment of some point. And you got to remember whether it was the first encounter or whether it was the way he met you in the room alone at night or something like that when you were scared and you just feel that warmth on the inside. So
yeah. Same thing, like in February when it all hit. You know, a lot of you, well, me, Fred, you know, you go through these trials or situations in life and you overcome them.
Yeah.
And then you think, oh, it's smooth sailing, you know, have no hiccups within years. And then all of a sudden, like, bam, you know, we're back here again.
Yeah.
And for me, you know, not that I had forgotten how good God was, but coming here, it was like, you know, I didn't check my bank account for 6 months. I knew we had money.
Yeah.
We come here and it was like, I'm looking at it every day.
Yeah.
You know, but I had to remember what he brought us out of from the beginning to the 6 months checking the account to back here. He'll do it again.
Yeah.
I just have to be faithful and trust and believe and not lose sight of that.
And remember to be thankful. That's one of the biggest things. Be thankful for what he's done because he's already doing things in our favor ahead of us.
Yep.
You know, God's already set things in motion, you know, and we get to this mindset of like, oh, you know, well, does God really know? He already knows all things and he knows what's going to come in the future and what's about to come. And he's preparing things now in motion to set forth for the next steps in your life, wherever he's calling you to and leading you to. So hold on to that. And one of the biggest things for me is coming to the table of the Lord and feasting.
Yes.
You know, the Bible says, I prepare a table before you in the presence of your enemies. And so we tend to forget that. And so for me, like, we can get so distracted by everything else like that. We forget what it truly means to feast in the presence of the Lord. Coming to a table and sitting down. And you can have these storms and it doesn't mean that, oh, you just ignore them. They're not there. Like my bank account being negative. It's a reality. It's real. It's there. But I'll tell you what, if I can just stop, put my phone down, stop looking and listening like to the negativity in the news, or even you can have other believers around you that like, oh, it's the Lord, you know, trying to teach you something like this. I heard something really good the other day. You want to tell them?
Oh my goodness.
Dan Muller is the one who said this, and I was really, it hit me like a ton of bricks.
Well, we were listening to him speak. It was a really good message he was having, and he said this one thing, and me and Fred had like an aha moment.
Yeah.
You know, God had done something in someone's life, and then, you know, Dan says that, oh, God doesn't subcontract things out to, you know, the devil where he can do these things.
To teach you a lesson.
Right.
He's never doing it to
and
teach
I'm like,
you a lesson.
oh my gosh, you know, because you think subcontracting, what do? They delegate little jobs here and there.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, No, God's not that way.
No, not at all. And so, like, learning that God's not doing these things, but learning that we can learn through every situation and every step and everything that we're going through. So, like, one of the shows I like is Blue Bloods on TV. And one of the things I like the most about it, even with its different backgrounds, is the family's family. If you have any type of family relationship, you know there's chaos in there. There's always going to be, we're coming up on Thanksgiving now here shortly, and you know what it's like. You always have that one aunt, uncle, cousin, somebody who's like, Lord help me. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. But it's funny with Blue Bloods, what I love about it is that every Sunday they come to the table.
Right.
They could be arguing.
Of what has happened during the week. They set it aside. And they come as a family. Yeah,
and one might storm off, but they have to come back. They know next week it's our family thing. We do this. We're going to come to the table. Yeah. And I think even that, just watching that, put aside all whatever your difference is, what you watch, what you don't watch, what you like and don't like. Learn to come to the table with the Lord.
Yes.
Because all he wants you to do is sit there and sup with him. I've already prepared the feast for you. And while the enemy's mocking you here, I'm just going to enjoy. I'm going to keep eating. I'm going to keep drinking. And and he's going to satisfy our souls at that table.
But come hungry.
Yes. Yeah.
I heard the other day, guy took his hunting dog out to go hunting, and it's a phenomenal hunting dog. And that morning, Bill, took him out to hunt, and the dog gets out of the truck, goes under the truck and lays down. And he was like, come on, let's hunt. The dog actually had no enthusiasm to hunt that morning. He went back to the trainer, told the trainer what had happened.
Yeah, he goes, I spent all these thousands of dollars on this dog, and he's not,
he's not hunting on this day. And the trainer goes, did you feed him? And he goes, yeah, I fed him. I wanted him to have energy that morning.
Yeah.
He goes, that's why he wouldn't hunt.
Yeah.
When you come to the table, you come hungry.
Yeah, that's big. That's really big. Man, those are the things. And the problem is look at what you're feasting on.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we try to dwell and feast on the negative instead of the positive.
Yep.
And if we can move past, forget all the garbage that's going on. I'm going to feast on what's good, what's nourishing to my soul.
Yeah.
If junk food eater, that I'm depressed, so I'm going to eat that ice cream. I'm going to keep eating the junk food. I'm going to keep putting the garbage in, and then you even feel more miserable the next day. It's like the alcoholic that's trying to satisfy himself to block out the thoughts in his mind. They'll just keep drinking and then wake up the next morning and the problem's still there.
Yes.
But when you come to the Lord, you get that nutrients that you need from him. Mm-hmm. You wake up the next morning refreshed with a new sense of hope that you hadn't had before. You have anything else you want to add on that?
Just about Fred was saying, Thanksgiving's coming up next week.
Yeah.
And to just sit back and just recap on what he's done for you in your life, whether how small or how big, just be in remembrance of that and be grateful and thankful for that.
Yeah.
I mean, never lose sight of those things.
Yeah.
I remember you preached one time about arrows and taking arrows and launching them forward.
Yeah.
Markers.
Yeah.
And even though you may not see it, you need to keep those things ahead of you.
Yeah, and if you've ever journaled, now I'm not a big journaler. I got the same journal I've had since 2014. Yeah, and I think I like maybe 8 pages in it. But I do journal these monumental things. Like I journaled my move to Mobile, Alabama, which was a big transition for me because it was something monumental. But it was funny because I went back because I felt like the Lord said, go back and look at the promises I've given you. See, we've all been given different promises. And I think Bill Johnson, he tends to call them life verses, which I like. Like he goes back and those are the ones you just feast on time and time again, And for me, I went back and I started looking at it. And one of the biggest things for me was everywhere in there that was written from 2014 to like a date to today in 2023, literally all of them said, presence, presence, presence.
Yep.
And so I don't want visitating presence. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy it more than anybody else out there. I want habitation of his presence. I want him to come and abide with me, through me, and in me.
Yeah.
And so the biggest thing, do you have anything you can tell them to take away from this episode today?
Write everything down. I'm bad about that, about journaling or writing moments down, grateful moments. Because there will come a day where you will need to go back and pull that book or that journal out and read what he brought you through, what he gave you, what he did for you.
Yep.
You know, so just write them down, and I'm trying to hold myself accountable to that as well. You know, and like I said, just put down the phone sometimes. Put down, you know, turn the TV off. Just put on some instrumental worship or whatever.
Yeah.
Just be grateful.
Yeah.
In all things, you know, it may not be what you want, but be grateful for what you have.
Yeah. Yeah. Even this morning, you know, you wake up and you start to feel like, oh, there's something there, but there's something in songs you can listen to that'll inspire and encourage you. So today, while I was listening to some worship music, the song came on, You Know Me. And the first part of the thing was saying, she goes, you know me when I rise, when I fall, when I come, and where I go.
Yep.
And so know that God knows everything about you. As a matter of fact, know that he's fascinated about you. And if you can take hold of that even in the midst of the storm, that we have a God that's fascinated with us and wants to show us good things.
Yep.
And we also have an enemy that's coming against those good things. So remember, you are fascinating to the creator of the universe. And get fascinated with him.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So we just encourage you right now, you know, just to be thankful, even past Thanksgiving, but coming up into it, just be grateful and thankful for everything that he has and is going, you know, to give you and has given you. And we just appreciate you, and just like and subscribe and share this with your friends and family. And like I said in one of the posts we have, put some comments in there if you want to hear some questions about us or some topics, what we think or how we feel on something. Because I will tell you this, you know, moving here, our mindsets have changed in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, just leave comments if you'd like to have any questions.
Yeah, you have questions. We'd love to answer your questions. We'll do a podcast set up just to answer questions of what you think. You know, how do we go through some of the things that we go through and what has changed in us.
Yeah.
So those are some of the things that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks. We will take a break for Thanksgiving.
Yes.
That week we won't launch a podcast, but we'll be right back the week after that.
Yep.
And then we'll be out of town, and we'll do one while we're on the road for you guys. So.
Oh yeah, that will be interesting.
Yeah. Have a great day.
But until then, we thank you guys for tuning in to the Whisper in the Walk, and see you next time.
Take care.